When you actually open the door to a jail and look at who's inside, an enormous amount of people are dealing with untreated mental health issues. And it is not acceptable for us to use jails as garbage bins for human beings. We need to treat people and see them as human. And so it is not a place for us to throw people for whom we don't want to invest in the actual holistic issues of their lives. If we want to reduce violent crime, if we want to reduce the number of people in our jails, the answer is to stop building more of them. The answer is to make sure that we actually build more hospitals. We pay organizers. We get people mental health care and overall health care, employment, etc. It's to support communities, not throw them away.
To reduce the number of people in prison, we should stop building them in jail. To reduce the number of people in jail, we should stop building them. So why build more hospitals? I mean, because if we're going to use that logic, if we want to reduce the number of sick people, we shouldn't build more hospitals. That's the logic, right? She just used, right? If we want to reduce the number of obese people in the United States, we should stop building more gyms. I don't understand, but I know what she's saying. I just don't understand it. A to Jet Noise on Rumble, Facebook, YouTube. Please join me. And coming back to Parler very, very soon. Did that make any sense? Does anyone know what she's getting at? I understand her face is popular. She's speaking to people that kind of are her, that 30 something white liberal. I know what I said. That 30-something white liberal girl that's those girls that you see on YouTube that are screaming about not being able to take off their mask, or screaming that Trump was made president, or, they're screaming at the top of their lungs about, let me kill babies. You let me kill babies. I understand she's speaking to that. And she kind of keeps them kind of step and fetch it, kind of, in line. She keeps that there will always be that vote, that 30, that 18 to 35 liberal white girl vote. Because she's always going to draw that. I know exactly what I said, but she's been on a roll lately, and that's basically, I mentioned yesterday I wanted to talk about her because what is going on? What is going on? There is a rumor out there that she wants to primary Chuck Schumer for his position in the Senate. So, as minority leader in the Senate. So maybe she's jockeying for position because she's just out there talking. My concern for her, which isn't that much of a concern, is she coming up with these topics or these? Is she coming up with these topics by herself, and my answer has to be, yeah, she has to be, because she's just saying just the most just ridiculous things. She brought back her story. I don't know if you saw that last year about the or last year, earlier this year about the January 6th breach of the Capitol. I know a lot of people want to call it insurrection or attack, and I'm not a fan of what happened to the facility, but some broken windows, some, I don't know, feet up on a podium, some broken doors. It's just, you're still, it shouldn't have happened. There was some Capitol guards, some Capitol police officers that were injured. There were some people, some civilians that were injured as well. But to call that one of there was who was it that just I can't remember the name. Terrible with names. But they just recently somebody compared it to the attack, the 9/11, the 2001 September 11th attack. The breach on the Capitol, where, and people were like, oh, deaths happened. Well, like two of the deaths happened like natural, they were heart attacks. They're police officers. They were police officers. And there was that rumor going on. Oh, they hit him in the head with a fire extinguisher. None of that happened. The dude died from some stress, right? So the breach happened. He overexerted himself, and he died at the hospital later. No one was killed. Well, I take that back. One person was actually killed. Dare I say murdered. And it was the young lady that was shot in the neck by a Capitol police officer because she was going to crawl through a window, through the glass pane, the broken glass pane of or broken sheet of glass or what have you, through a door. So the wooden doors, glass panels, the panel is broken out, and she started to crawl through that. This is a girl, not even like not like China of WWE and of the WWF days. It was just a girl, and they shot her almost point blank in the neck. The Capitol Guard. Now, there's a few things that don't make this story a very big story in mainstream media, because the person that was shot was white. The shooter, Capitol police officer, and black. But most importantly, it's not that big a deal in mainstream media, and of course to you viewers of mainstream media, you still may not even have heard of it. But the most important detail was that she was a Trump supporter. Right? Now, some of you probably just heard that and were just like, well, then she deserved to get shot. That's something you need to work on. Back to AOC. Back to AOC. She brought back her story, I don't want to say lie, because she did. When I listened to the story, which is roughly about about an hour and 6 minutes long, an hour and 6 minutes, I'll never get back. she was telling the story in the way she perceived it, right? So she was apparently afraid for her life because the breach of the Capitol was happening. And she mentioned that she was in the office and she was just going to order lunch for her and G. I believe his name is Guillermo. She was just about to order lunch for the both of them. She's going to have a really banging lunch. That's what she said. I'm going to order a really banging lunch for her and G. And then she mentions that she heard like a pounding on the door of her office door, which, and if you have to picture it, she would be, so like if you walk into the office door, there would be like where the assistant, as soon as you go in through the door, the assistant would be in there. And then there's another door just beyond the assistant, which is where her office would actually be. So she had actually, her desk would be. So she heard the pounding on the door in the section of where G sits. And she said she heard someone say, "Where's she at?" Right? So then she said she gets up and she pinned herself up against behind her door. So she's not like, she's pinned up against the wall, like behind her door, and just kind of, she said she was looking through, where your door hinges. So she's looking through that little space between where the door hinges. And as the voice, as she's watching, the voice turned into, she got a visual of who it was. And it was a Capitol Police officer. Apparently the Capitol Police officer was white. I guess. Because now she said she was afraid. She explained in her story that she was afraid of how loud and demanding this police officer was. And what he was trying to say was he wanted her to go to another building. All right, here's how that works out. The Capitol itself was being breached. Down the road a little bit is what they call the Cannon building. All right. So as the breach is happening at the Capitol, Cannon building is where many of the offices of these representatives and senators are located. The Cannon building is where Alexander's office is. All right. So she says that she was scared because she knew that was happening in this office. Now, she never said that her office building was being breached. So we're not going to say that she said that. She did not say that. She didn't lie about that. But just minutes before, she was going to, as the Capitol's being breached, she was going to order lunch for her and G. Then the officer comes in and starts barking orders. Go to the Longworth House. The Longworth House is a second building where many of these representatives and senators, their offices are there. It's a little further down the road. Now, it sounds to me that as this happened, that the reason they did this is because now what they're trying to do is corral everybody into one building instead of having to cover both buildings. So they were going around telling everyone in the Cannon building, which is probably a little closer to the Capitol building, to go to the Longworth building. So now they only really have to, in case something stupid happens, they only really have to defend one house. So she said that she got nervous because of the cops, because blah, blah, blah. because it's a cop and he's barking orders, and she felt that didn't need to happen, like it didn't need to happen that way. But it is a cop. He's barking orders because if he's explaining things to you softly, that takes time. He just needs you to be from where you're at to where they feel is going to be the safer spot. All right. I'm going too long about this. So anyway, she makes it to Longworth Building with G, and they end up in Katie Porter's office, which is, she's a representative, another Democrat. They get to the Longworth Building. She ends up in Katie Porter's office, and Katie is just, whatever. She's caring about her business. And Alexandria is now explaining that she's running around Katie's office, checking like behind doors, in closets. Now, I can picture this. I'm thinking this is where she's at. She's on 11 with her nervous scale. And everyone else is just like, what is wrong with you, girl? So anyway, trying to shorten the story some more. They end up on the phone with Ayanna Pressley, who is apparently on a second or third floor. Her office is up there. And Alexandria is explaining to her, they rushed this over here and blah, blah, and I'm nervous. And she's explaining to her, this is crazy. And Ayanna Pressley, who is probably even more mellow than Katie Porter at this point. I was going to say Katy Perry. Katie Porter at this point is just like, come on up and get something to eat, girl. So everyone around her seems to be like, no big deal. Life is moving, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, she's on 11. She's saying that she's afraid for her life. She brought up that that she's a victim of sexual misconduct or sexual assault. She brought that up and got hold her on that one. But it is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And the things that she says, I can't even be certain where she's at when she makes such a claim. And I will not approach that because, again, I don't know where she's at in her head. I don't know what she actually experienced, but she then tried to. Here's where it gets disturbing. She tried to compare her experience, what she was experiencing at that moment, to her sexual assault. And that people were telling her to move on, and then she's saying that type of mindset is abuse, mindset of an abuser. You are dealing with particular. Oh, this is why she brought it up, because she said she was going to therapy because of the January 6th breach of the Capitol. So I am not going to say that she's not taking therapy, because I actually believe that what she created in her head about the January 6th breach is actually very, very real to her. that being said, should we have someone like that working for the people? So, here's just a few things that are happening at AOC's life in these last couple of months. I'll make it quick. It's too late for that now, right? If we want, there's that. If we want to reduce the number of people in our jails, the answer is to stop building more of them. It just doesn't make any sense. Kathy Griffin had brought up AOC. Kathy Griffin had brought up AOC because, well, I'll explain that later. But she mentioned Kathy Griffin in a tweet said, "AOC, thank you for continuing to do a great job. You represent Americans better than we represent ourselves," which is incredibly insulting to anyone that is Puerto Rican. That is just flat out it's just hate. That's bigoted. That is the typical white liberal elite just opening their mouth and patting people of color on the head. That is incredibly racist. You represent Americans better than we represent ourselves. Kathy Griffin, if I would say that your career needs to take a hit on that, but what career? But the worst part about that is where is Alexandria can't say anything back, right? Because they're on the same team at this point. So she can't clap back at something so insulting because their politics are on the same road. Think about what Griffin just said. You represent us better than you represent Americans better than we represent ourselves. That is incredibly insulting to anyone, specifically to anyone that's Puerto Rican. The rumors of the possible Chuck Schumer primary, that's bringing up. She says, "I'm not being coy." When you bring it up, she says, "I'm not being coy." Yeah, you're being coy. The way she kind of like tiptoes around that particular thing, she is indeed being coy. So she wants to primary Chuck Schumer. So that's out there. Vice President Harris. She came out and a bit back. She said she was really disappointed that the speech that Harris had brought up just recently. When she went down to Guatemala, Vice President Harris said that if you're thinking about coming up to the United States, do not come. Do not come. She repeated it. Do not come. You will be turned back, which is the actual... that should have been said long before they before they were even voted in. Do not come. And the only reason they say that now is because it's a debacle. It is an utter mess that not enough people are willing to talk about. Of course, we'll talk about that sometime in the near future. But yeah, so Harris goes down and she tells people in Guatemala, do not come. AOC is disappointed in that. She said that seeking asylum at any U.S. border is 100% legal. The key word there is asylum. How many people are actually seeking asylum when they cross that border? Is 100% legal method of arrival. And that the U.S. Spent decades contributing to the destabilization in Latin America. We can't help set someone's house on fire and then blame them for fleeing. I kind of can't argue that. We've done our part to screw things up. And then on top of that, just like we're doing now, screwing things up by saying, hey, yeah, we're going to open a door. By all means. You don't make Biden t-shirts in South America that say, Biden let us in. Literally, people are crossing the border wearing t-shirts that say that. AOC attacked New York Mayor Bill de Blasio, which normally I'd be like, hey, it's a great attack. That is a great attack. De Blasio, a proposal to cut nearly $1 billion. Remember earlier this year, he had cut $1 billion from the New York City Police Department by saying it doesn't go, de Blasio took away $1 billion from the police department. Now, he's regretting that now because he can't necessarily say that, but he's regretting that now because the madness that's happening in New York, now that he's taken that money away from the police officers. Ocasio-Cortez attacked him because she's saying that the $1 billion is not going far enough. Taking away $1 billion is not going far enough. Defunding the police means defunding the police. That the cuts are disingenuous, she said. Right? This is not a victory. The fight to defund policing continues. So get rid of jails. This is your girl. This is your girl saying, get rid of jails and you won't have any more criminals. And taking away $1 billion, brutally battering the police in New York is not enough. Defund them. Just take them away. Just take their money away. Just don't pay the police. Don't pay for any equipment. Just get rid of the police. That is your girl. Let me give you some stats about what your girl is putting together. Violent crimes being up dramatically across the country. Chicago shootings are up 36% over last year, and homicides are up 19%. That's Chicago. South Carolina murders. South Carolina murders up nearly 25% in 2020 versus 2019. The 571 murders are the highest total since the state started recording those numbers in 1960. South Carolina. As of May 7th, it's a popular date here in our household. As of May 7th, homicides in Atlanta are up approximately 60% compared to the same time period last year. A study of 34 U.S. cities discovered that homicides have spiked by 24% in the first quarter of 2021 compared to the same time last year, and are up by 49% compared to the first quarter of 2019. In fact, 63 of the 66 largest cities in the United States experienced increases in at least one category of violent crimes in 2020. In New York City, can't make a barbecue sauce in New York City. The murder rate skyrocketed by 47% last year, and this year it is up 17%. Defund the police. Last summer, when violent crime rates were soaring, AOC hypothesized that the crime rate And this is one of the most fascinating things I've ever heard. There is a small clip of AOC explaining why the crime rates are going up in New York, and she mentions that if you're debating on how you're going to pay rent or if you're going to pay rent, and you are forced into these corners because of what have you, COVID or what have you, you are going to go out and steal bread so you can eat. Did you hear that? She said that the crime rate went up in New York because people needed to steal bread, to shoplift bread. That was the crime rate that was being counted. The tick up in the crime rate was people stealing bread. That's your girl. That's your girl. Lastly, the best one to me by far is where she tweeted the picture of her grandmother's ceiling. Her abuela's ceiling. And it had some structural damage, a couple buckets on the floor. She blamed the damage, not being able to fix the damage at her abuela's house in Puerto Rico because of Trump. She said that her abuela's ceiling is not fixed because of the situation that Trump put them in. Alexandria. You know what? I really have to show you. I hope I can find this quickly. The blaming Trump for your abuela's ceiling not being fixed for years now, because apparently it was hurricane, was it Maria, that passed through there and made all that incredible damage. Is it cop out, right? It's kind of a cowardly cop out. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. Give me a second. Just give me a second here. See, all right. So she is she really wants to sell the point. I'm gonna go because I don't want to look for this too much, but there is a photograph of AOC's Tesla, and the Tesla is sitting in the parking lot, illegally parked in a parking lot of Whole Foods. Now, truth is, there is no real proof that the photograph is actually real. But she does drive a Tesla, and she does shop at Whole Foods. And I can't find the picture right now, but I'll post that on Facebook. She does drive a Tesla, and she does shop at Whole Foods. She is adamant about hating Elon Musk and Amazon and Jeff Bezos. And if you drive your Tesla to Whole Foods, if you drive your Tesla, Elon Musk, to Whole Foods, Jeff Bezos and Amazon, you are not being quite honest with yourself. that being said, abuela ceiling can be fixed by nieta. Nieta means granddaughter. Alexandria, fix your grandmother's ceiling. Matt Walsh started a GoFundMe. Matt Walsh is a conservative podcaster, contributor. Matt Walsh started a GoFundMe with his audience and raised $100,000 to fix abuela's ceiling. Now, apparently, Alexandria cannot find enough money from her Tesla or her trips to Whole Foods to fix abuela's ceiling. Right? She can't find it there. So, an audience found $100,000 to make repairs for that. The Ocasio-Cortez family turned the money down. What does that say? Well, that says that Alexandria, which is no surprise, Ocasio-Cortez, used a picture of her abuela's misfortune for political reasons, right? And that's actually why Kathy Griffin had said, you represent us better than we represent ourselves, right? And your daughters and your girlfriends are just latched onto this girl right now. And she is not an honest person. Alexandria. This is the girl that said that one of the biggest dangers in this nation is cow flatulence. And dare I say that Alexandria, one of the biggest dangers to this nation is actually the flatulence coming out of your mouth. I'm done. Can you believe I did almost 40 minutes? And you could go on for a really, really long time about this little girl. And I say little girl, if you haven't seen her jumping up and down and throwing her hands like a 7-year-old having a tantrum who lost, her favorite shirt was washed when she really needed it. It's in the wash. I need my shirt. On the Senate floor, she's jumping up and down, throwing her hands. There's nothing else you can call this person but a little girl. Things coming out of her mouth are just on the same level as somebody like Greta Thunberg. In fact, more adolescent. Ada Jet Noise, ADA Jet Noise, Rumble, Facebook, YouTube. You'll see me back on Parler very, very soon. I'm still trying to work out this whole Instagram idea. So you got to be patient with me. I'm not going to mention that too much more until it's up and rolling. So, thanks for joining me again today, Ada Jet Noise. Hopefully, again, I'll see you tomorrow. I think I will. Ada Jet Noise. Signing out. Until then, big hug. Be good. Be still. Enjoy your life.